Want to know the best way to get your internal subject matter experts creating content? Stop asking them to create content. Hi, I'm John, and what I'm about to share comes directly from my own experience working with founders, CMO, and VPs of marketing on content strategy. Most of the leaders I talk to these days are actually thinking more about brand and differentiation, more so than any other time that I can remember in my career. AI has essentially homogenized a lot of the content that you and I see in our email inbox, in our social news feeds, the blogs that we read, and so on. So rather than create content around generic advice and insights, a lot of the leaders I talk to are looking to their internal subject matter experts for help, right? They're looking for them to be the key to differentiate from the noise out there. It's the right instinct, but the execution is often wrong for two big reasons. Mistake number one, they're asking the subject matter experts themselves to create the content. The writing, the recording, the creating. They don't have the time, right? That's obvious. A lot of the folks that are customer facing that you'd often ask to participate, customer success, sales, product, their calendars are often lined wall to wall with meetings, right? They just don't have the time. But here's the thing, they'll often commit. A lot of the folks that I've worked with in the past will say, yeah, we have some folks on the engineering team that have committed to doing one blog post a month. What ends up happening is 90 days later, they still haven't gotten that one blog post done. And it's really at no fault of their own, right? They've gotten pulled in a million different directions doing other things, but they'll say, hey, I'll get it done next Wednesday. I have some time blocked out. Guess what happens next Wednesday? Usually nothing happens, right? So that's the first big mistake is you're asking the subject matter experts themselves to do the content creation. Mistake number two is often overlooked. You're asking the subject matter experts to come up with the angle and the positioning of the content. Maybe you're giving them a topic or a keyword or something to cover, but you're then leaving it to them to come up with the entire basically theme and basis for the content itself. So what ends up happening there is they're so close to the work that the things that are obvious to them, they'll leave out. And those obvious things would be mind-blowing to your audience. But they leave those things out because they're in it every single day. They're so close to it and it's so obvious to them. So they'll leave that out because left to their own devices, they have nobody to sort of pressure test these things against, right? There's no one asking them the questions or following up on their train of thought. So now what you've done is you've created this bandwidth issue, not just in the time that it takes to create the content, but also the mental work required for them to decide what to even write about, what's valuable, what do I include, what's the right framing for this. So what ends up happening is they have this impossible task in front of them that's really hard for them to kind of fulfill, right? So nothing happens, like I said. Most teams will commit, but very few that I've seen actually follow through in a way that's consistent that you'll end up needing for your content strategy. So what actually works? Here's the biggest thing that I hope you'll remember and take away from this video. You need to separate the insights from the production work. Those are two very different jobs. The reason why you want subject matter experts to create content is because you want their insights, their experience, and their observations. So let's get those things. Do we need to have them write the content itself, record the episode, write the email? No, we don't. We could separate the insights from the production, and that makes things easier for everybody. So what that looks like is setting up a regular interview cadence with your subject matter experts. You're doing the questioning. You control the output. Someone else does the writing. You can build a question set on real questions being asked, either by listening to sales calls, reviewing form fills, reviewing support tickets. This is actually a really great use case for AI, where you could take all those inputs, feed it into AI, and basically build a question set to interview your subject matter experts and come up with something really good that will be beyond what they could have come up with on their own. And then the key is to follow up, right? When they're sharing things so that we can make sure we get out everything that they may think is obvious, but really isn't, right? And the other thing that you need to do after setting up these interviews is you need to sell them on what this does for them. A lot of the teams, what they'll end up doing is saying, hey, I need you to create this content for the marketing team, so they could hit their goals. But really how you should be selling it to customer success, to product. Most of these teams want their work better represented. Product teams want the features they've worked hard on to be represented in the content. Customer success teams want more collateral to be able to share on calls, to be able to deliver to prospects. Same thing with sales. So if you pitch this as a way, hey, we want to create content, extract the raw material from you, and this content is going to make your job easier, that's the way to sell internal subject matter experts to actually getting on a call with you and taking the time to do that, because they're going to see it as a value add to their job, not just as a way for you to check off a box for your editorial roadmap. So how do you actually get this started? Things you could do this week. Close out the video, identify one person on your team who's lived the life of your customer. Working with a client recently who's in the IT space, a lot of their customers are sysadmins. They actually have somebody on their brand team who's a former sysadmin. She understands the challenges they go through. She understands the pain. She talks like them. She sounds like them, right? She's become a massive resource on the team for basically the core of their content strategy. So find that person or people on your team that have lived the life of your customer, or that are customer facing every single day and have really gotten a good feel for what that looks like. Schedule one, start with one, schedule one 30 to 45 minute interview with them. Again, build your question set, use various inputs like customer calls, customer support tickets, and those things to build your question set. That's really the most important part. But schedule that 30 to 45 minute interview with them and go through your question set. Bring those questions with you. Be prepared to ask follow-ups. Ask for examples. You might want to even send them questions ahead of time so they can think about it. Ask them for examples so they can kind of go through their, run inventory on their own experiences and observations so they can come prepared, right? Prepare them for the interview. What you'll end up with is one interview that could be raw material for 2 to 3 blog posts, a month's worth of social media posts, and multiple other rabbit holes you can go down, right? Email newsletters, potential topics for videos like this, podcast episodes, right? Before, you might have asked a subject matter expert to write one blog post on one topic. But what you're going to get from an interview is the core for an entire content strategy built around proprietary and unique insights that you can't find anywhere else but on your team. So you'll end up with that one interview that you can kind of cascade down into different content, and then you can scale that process with other members of the team, right? You might have one week where you're talking to a member of customer success. The next week, you're talking to somebody from product. The next week, sales. So each of them are only committing to 1 hour a month, but you're having 4 hours a month with 4 different people. That's going to act as the core of your content strategy and put, again, the proprietary and unique insights for the people inside your company at the core of your content strategy. That's how we differentiate from AI. That's how we differentiate from others in our space. That's how we build a content strategy around the things that make us different. Not by creating more work for your subject matter experts, but creating more work from the conversations that you organize with your subject matter experts. So if any of this sounds familiar and you're trying to build a content program that actually sounds like your company, not just more blog posts, I work with B2B teams and founders on exactly this. You can learn more about what that looks like through the link below, contentbrands.co. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.